Wow. And greetings and salutations, everyone. You've tuned in to, because it's Wednesday, Global Recovery Today here at UBN Radio Network. That's Universal Broadcasting Network. Every Wednesday at 7:30, every other Wednesday, at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. And we're also on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, and, of course, you can watch us on YouTube. I'm your host, Walt Lusk, and, of course, we have in his normal undisclosed location, Tyson Elliott, who is still one of the founders of Global Recovery Today, which is a group of very like-minded folks dedicated to finding real solutions for addiction and its root causes. So we're going to talk a little continuation about what we did last show.
Yeah, I was reevaluating the intro and talking about one of the unique investigations that I've been lucky enough to take part in is the use of plant medicines, psychedelics specifically, but really a complete comprehensive look at what's the problem, what are the causes, and then, how are we treating them now, what's working, what's not working. And it has come to, I have come to believe that this is primary a malady of relationship, dysfunctional relationships starting from a very young age and working all the way up until today's society where we don't relate very well, we isolate. I've been doing, as many people know, dog rescue. It really serves me. It brought me back from the brink. That and gardening, working with plants, they both, because of the lack of judgment that I have for people and the difficulty in having healthy relationships with human beings, I found myself out in the garden or working with the animals that give me unconditional love, and found real solace and relief in doing both of those things. So I don't know, what to add to, the intro, but it just seems to me that we're moving in the direction of really talking about healthy relationships. Today, I wanted to talk about the protesting and the violence and what we see as, a group of people that want to focus on the differences, and they have, a tremendous amount of anger.
They sure do, and it's in Charlottesville started, and of course it's spilling over into many, many major cities all over the country in the South and otherwise.
It's awakening,
Yes,
it's
it
something
is.
that's been dormant and hasn't had a voice, and it's coming up now, and I'm personally glad that it is, so that we can get it out and we can talk about it. And this is what has to happen. This is the healing process where, we look into the face, into the eyes of the people that have these beliefs. The key is going to be, how do we do this in a loving way? How do we lovingly reflect and work on what's the cause?
I think that's the $64 million question, right? How do we do this lovingly and have an adult conversation, an understanding of both sides?
It's always going to be love in relationship, even if it's not wanted. It will work itself out of the system to stay in a loving vibration. And this is a vibratorial, prayer, intentful living solution that we can all partake in. And it's really our own personal responsibility that when we're in and around the negativity, to not respond to it. And I got to say, I don't do it so well in my own personal life when I'm confronted with situations where I feel like I'm either being taken advantage of or I'm losing something that I've worked very hard for. I'm going through it right now, and separation with relationships that I currently have, and it's difficult, and I find myself acting childish and wounded. And
it's never easy, Tyson. It's never easy.
No, it's not.
No.
And the reminder is, take a deep breath, take personal responsibility. What's my part? And try as best I can to raise my vibration and work on me. That's really what I'm focusing on. Letting go, radical responsibility for all things in my field. It isn't what my mind is telling me that it's this other situation, these other people. No, it's something that it's of my own creation, and I can only do anything about my part of it. And I started to investigate some of the things that I've experienced. I'm going to read this from this article that says, from the earliest age, a child has no choice but to absorb the way others interact with him and by how they treat him, be it with warmth and kindness or indifference, cruelty and harshness. These impressions are imprinted into the neural pathways of the brain. How a child's brain and body are affected by neglect and abuse or deprivation can be seen. Stress crosses all social economic conditions and generations. Individual brains and bodies differ in how they respond to unhealthy stress, whether traumatic, prolonged, or toxic. And these types of stress often have vast repercussions on society, frequently across generations. Exposure to prolonged, fearful, and stressful experiences can interfere with neuronal connections, alter brain chemistry, undermine learning, and have long-term consequences on healthy moral development. The increased rates of stress-related disease and mental illness in our time are a serious concern to our common future.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, Walt, you work with Dr. Judy in this field on your radio show.
I do. On my other radio show, Dr. Judy Rosenberg, and the show Dr. Judy WTF, What the Freud. And we deal a lot with relationships. I mean, that's pretty much what we do. And we are more stressed out than ever, more sleep deprived than ever. And unfortunately, we are more connected. In fact, there was an article this week about the trauma of people that lose or don't have their cell phone with them, and we're more connected to our cell phones. And as a result, we're less connected to those around us.
Absolutely. Tying this into what I see happening, which is coming up, this separation, this hate, we identify with a group, and that who we relate to, our relationships, has the greatest impact on what we think, what we believe, how we behave. So if we're in and around people of a specific mindset, it's just a matter of time that we adopt that mindset and or vibration. I go back to vibration. And I know I spent the weekend out with Luis Manuel Castellano. We had him on the show.
We did a couple months ago.
Yeah, his school, Immaculita, EMACLITA. He calls it a sanitarium, which is a little scary, but it's all about detoxing the body and staying in a positive vibration, qigong movement, smooth, harmonious movement, but on a cellular level, and then deeper on a mental level, and then even deeper than that on a spiritual level. He brings the body in harmony, but the people around him, all so loving, all so collaborative in the way that they work on this ranch. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it. And I left there feeling, wow, this is really what the world needs now, love, sweet love. And, it's possible. You don't have to go to a ranch in Tecate to get it, but there are communities, seek them out. This is the thing. Having the conversation, being in and around kind people, is going to help raise your vibration for sure. Have you, Walt, your work with Judy talks about that a lot.
Yes, we really don't address a lot of the vibration issue.
You guys stick to the
we're more a little psychological based because Judy's a psychologist, but Judy and I both agree and believe in the vibrational aspect, and it's very important. And if you she's big with attachment theory, and so if like for example, we have a lot of shows about narcissism, and if you were raised by narcissists, chances are you're going to have a relationship with one, and the whole pattern repeats unless the whole thing's addressed on a foundational level.
Right. So the plant medicine and why this is what I found is that the plant medicine, psychedelics specifically, which permeate the blood-brain barrier, actually create new neurological pathways.
Yes. It does.
There's different spirits, I believe, with each medicine. Ayahuasca being more feminine, ibogaine more masculine. We've talked about the effects of 5-MeO-DMT. Haven't really got into some of the other medicines,
Yeah.
mushrooms, and the effects that those can have. But ultimately, creating new neurological pathways and making people much more sensitive and empathetic. And in doing that, allows them to reconnect. Also, working with animals, dogs. I've worked with patients, and benzodiazepines is a pretty common solution for anxiety. That's what people take when they're pharmaceutical companies, and you go to your doctor and you tell them I'm anxious. Well, yeah, of course, look at your job, look at your relationships, look at the world we live in. And so what they do is they give you benzodiazepine, Xanax, or we go out and we use illicit drugs like opiates, smoke marijuana, and of course the big one, alcohol. And so we know that this is self-medicating for a
Right.
state of anxiety.
Self-medicating. That's exactly what I was going to say. We're all taking something to calm us down or whatever in our stressful lives. And sometimes it's healthy and legal, and sometimes it's not healthy and illegal.
Yeah, and who decides, what's the agenda behind making it illegal really has created the problem of addiction, because we basically swept it under the rug, made it so we criminalized it. And now the people that, use these substances are, they're basically ostracized from society. And in that, there's a lower vibration that is basically taking root, and that's where they get stuck. The plants can help, in the case of ibogaine, detox you and reset the receptor sites. But in the case pretty much across the board of psychedelics is create new neurological pathways and create more empathy, which allows people to have healthier relationships. This is the overall expectation that I have, or let's say the overall reason we use these substances, which is to feel connected. Into
Yes. Yeah.
You want to do the call-in show?
This is a call-in show. My apologies. And if you want to get on and join the conversation, which we'd really appreciate you would, you can call area code 323. Let's see. Where'd the number go?
You need some help there, Walt?
No.
323-524-2599.
It's not up. Oh, yeah. 323-524-2599.
And then there's also zoom.us if you want to come in that way.
Right. Well, yeah, but they have to have the code and stuff, so it's best to just call on the phone.
All right. Call in. Yeah. I want to hear from anybody that wants to share on their own experience with either plant medicine, psychedelics, or any of the other things that they've used to help them recover from addiction, depression, eating disorders, or if you're still suffering from those and you would like to hear or discuss, what might be a possible solution. And but in the meantime, Walt, the other stuff that we were looking at about relationships in general and how not being in them can affect our health. Did you see what I sent you?
Yes, and unfortunately, I've learned for years it is a couple's world, and we need to be in relationships. And we've had a show called "We Are Wired to Connect," and being by ourselves and such, has its moments. But ultimately, we are, we're communicative and we're social folks. Are you talking about the other one, healthy benefits of strong relationships?
Well, yeah, I mean, depression, decreased immune function, all of the things that you see when you're not in a relationship that you could say are psychosomatic, but it's really a function of how relationships open up our heart space, activate the neurological pathways in relationships. So it's not really psychosomatic. It's a function of the fact that we are wired to be connected with other people, and when we're not, it can be devastating to our emotional
Well,
well-being.
and our health. The quality of our relationships really does matter. For example, one study found that midlife women, in particular, who are in highly satisfying marriages and marital type relationships, had a lower risk of cardiovascular disease compared with those in less satisfying marriages. And having a network of important relationships also can make a difference. A large Swedish study of people ages 75 and older concluded that dementia risk was lowest in those who had a variety of satisfying contacts with friends and relatives.
Well, the almost it's obvious. I think for most of us it's obvious, but
Yes.
we moved away. I mean, we got less marriage, less
Mm-hmm.
connection, more divorce.
Mm-hmm.
People like the single life, and then we've got
Well,
online dating.
they think they like the single life.
Right. I mean, there's a freedom, but there's a cost too. I mean,
A
there's
very high cost. Yeah.
that's what it is, and we're getting the freedom as if you're a guy, that you can basically pick and choose who you want to see and keep yourself open and flexible. I think that's relatively normal for a guy, but ultimately, I think I'm coming to believe I'm 47 years old. I was married for 7 years, and I don't want to say I'm a serial monogamist because I would get into 2-year relationships, and I didn't. I've had my experiences with polyamory, and I'm all for relationships. It doesn't. I don't know that the science, what we're looking here, says that a committed relationship has greater health.
And well, here's one. Live longer. A review of 148 studies found that people with a strong social relationship are 50% less likely to die prematurely. Similarly, they found that the research calculates that committing to a life partner can add at least 3 years of life to your life expectancy.
Wow. And that's the one that I was looking for,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
that there's some evidence that and the way you phrased it too, committing to someone.
Yeah, committed.
Purpose. It's not just about you.
Correct.
Same thing with my dogs. But even there, I do foster care, right? I don't have a dog. For someone who loves animals, people are like, well, don't you have a dog? And, I had my dog. Her name was Honey Bear. I had her for 18 years.
Wow.
I got her when I was 21, and, she lived a long, happy life. And the last couple of years were hard to watch her decline. It wasn't the same dog. And eventually, I got to euthanize her. She died in my arms. And, it was a beautiful relationship. I was so grateful to have that experience. And, it was powerful, and it was my primary relationship.
Yeah. And how long ago did you lose her?
That was almost 10 years ago now.
10 years. Okay. Because here's one. Feel richer. Real quick. A study of National Bureau of Economic Research of 5,000 people found that doubling your group of friends has the same effect on your well-being as it does on your income by doubling or a 50% increase in your income.
Beautiful. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Working towards the recovery dogs, which is my sort of new mission. And the recovery dogs is going to be about bringing people out of their caves, using the animals and the work with the dogs and training the dogs as a way of, building a relationship with the animal. It's going to, this is primarily for veterans that suffer from PTSD, because if people aren't aware, you should be aware that the suicide rates are through the roof. I don't have the numbers. I don't know.
I have that number. 22 veterans a day commit suicide here in the United States alone. Just in the U.S., 22 vets a day commit suicide.
Right. And so I know, and we've had people on the show, and I've been doing interviews with people that have struggled with depression, separation, PTSD, whether they're military or just a product of today's society, that working with animals undoubtedly helps. And so the Recovery Dogs is going to be doing a pilot program where we bring in a group of people. And I started working with Roger. Okay, here we go. Roger Terrio with Canine Arts, an amazing master acupuncturist and Qigong master. He also is a master behavioralist, and he runs a kennel and trains dogs to be off-the-leash dogs.
Okay,
and he's
good.
going to be partnering with myself and some other people, Jeremiah, who has a program of teaching people how to manifest their potential. And, I call it puppies and purpose, to be able
Okay.
to love and lose and not use is the practice that we're going to be doing with some people. Again, I have a tendency to go back towards addictions because we all have it, whether it's substances or not. Just to burst the bubble, it's not just the opiate addicts that we self-medicate or we behave in a way. Right? So,
yes.
So the recovery dog's here within the next 30, 60, 90 days is going to have his first pilot program, and it's going to focus on, we're going to be going into Tijuana in Rosarito, Mexico, where there's a tremendous need for dogs that are being, because of the lack of we don't pick them here. We pick them up off the streets. They get into a shelter. They either get placed into a rescue or they get euthanized. Tragic. And in Mexico, many of them are just left on the streets and they've not been spayed or neutered. So they just, thousands of puppies each, every quarter. And so I've been down there a number of years and helped rescue hundreds of dogs, got them vaccinated and brought up here through the rescue organizations, the Lovejoy Foundation, through Pawsport, which is now Ozzy and Friends, and then any other really rescue that can find homes for the dogs will eventually help us place these dogs. But in the meantime, we're going to go in and we're going to get them off the streets. We're going to get them out of the shelters. We're going to get them vaccinated, get them spayed and neutered, and then we're going to train them, and they're going to be off the leash dogs. We're also going to be working on curriculum with the young men. This is primarily going to be for men initially. They will be the recovery dogs trained, and it's kind of like levels of Boy Scouts, and so they'll be able to go home to their community and work with the rescue organizations and help train the dogs that are there, so that when you come in to adopt a dog, you'll be able to adopt a dog that is off the leash trained. And so you can walk up to a door and tell them to stay and go into the store and come out, and your dog is going to be sitting there waiting for it. It's amazing, how.
And rescue dogs really are the best dogs.
Rescue dogs are the best.
They are the best dogs. Yeah, because they know from whence they came.
Well, really, it's hard for me sometimes. The process of training, is a little difficult. You've got to say no, and I'm love and allowing, and I don't want to do the hard work. I tried it at the clinic when I started. It was it was early morning meditation, hugs, and high vibe, and loving, caring, radical allowing, and people were relapsing and overdosing, and I couldn't maintain a container, and so I had to bring in somebody who mastered in that. And so really the two of us together, we could achieve a lot, because there's the love, but love without structure. We love people right into their grave.
Yes. Yes.
So the dogs really crave someone to lead. They crave knowing exactly where they're supposed to be and at what time, and following commands of a strong leader. So it's been an interesting educational process for me. And now to be able to actually learn it myself and practice it with, the first group of recovery dogs, I'm excited about, that process. So I will keep people posted on that. There's going to be an opportunity for people to participate however they want, whether it be, coming down and working with us on weekend.
Or they can be foster parents for a while until they adopt a dog for a few weeks or so until a home is found, so that you can have a dog. But then you give it to a loving family, and you've got a little break if you want one, and you can do it again with the next one.
That is the beautiful thing, is that there is in everybody. If you're listening and you've been isolating, or you feel a little depressed and you want good medicine, pick up the phone and call one of your local rescues.
Absolutely.
Go up on the weekends to an adoption, and pick up a leash and walk a dog and pick up some poop and
getting out walking a dog. You're outside. You're dealing with nature. You're around trees and grass, and you got your feet on the ground. Even just 15 minutes a day makes a big difference in one's life.
Well, also, when you
And a little
mentioned about
exercise.
new relationships, meeting
Yes.
new people and
Yep.
how
There are dog parks and right. And
well,
you
when you're
almost meet more folks with a dog than a baby.
yeah, and when you're at the actual adoption, people are coming up and you're talking to them and you're talking to the dog and you're seeing the smile on their face and their heart's open and you're in and around them in that heart space where everybody's happy and joyful.
Absolutely.
There's no negative energy. There's,
No, there's
so
not.
so you're coming out of your cave. You're working with it. You're being of service. You're meeting new people, and ultimately, what I do here, and it's not necessarily easy. Seeing the dogs in the cage, most people feel terrible.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, this is sad, and it takes a while. I get that, and I beg people to push past that. For those that care and love animals and say, "Oh, it's too hard. I can't go up there." You do have to risk. I mean, if there's trauma in your life and it's unresolved, it can, I don't want to push you into a more traumatic situation and you end up relapsing. I mean, these are real possibilities. So be really aware of how you feel and what's triggered in you when you go to see the animals and to work with them. And pick up the phone and call your support group. Call me, but it's about going and being part of something, right? Getting some purpose, being of service, opening your heart, taking a chance, and then watching whatever comes up, and asking for help and doing this process of inquiry, where we look at how we are seeing the world, how we are judging others in the world around us, and what do we do with that? How does that affect the choices we make, and the friends that we keep, and the places we go, and the substances we take, food we eat.
Yeah, substances we take. And this is a call-in show. And if you want to get on the show and the discussion, you can call area code 323-524-2599 here in Los Angeles and anywhere in the country. Join the conversation. If you have a dog, if you want a dog, if you have an experience about a dog, if you've got an issue with an addiction where a dog actually helped you, we have had a couple of guests on that have talked about that in a big way. Jump on in.
Yeah, I feel like, again, the opportunity is so big because there's dogs everywhere.
Yes, there are.
Everywhere. And they need help, even if it's, giving some financial aid to help the process, or foster care. So let's talk a little bit about foster care because it's difficult as well. You do get connected with these animals and, you spend time with them during the week. So the way that works is you go to a rescue, you say, "I'd like to foster." There's a simple questionnaire, application. You want to make sure that it's a safe environment, that you understand how to care for the dog. Generally, they provide food and leashes and crates for you, so you don't really have to come out of pocket for anything. You just provide them with love and a safe place, and they provide you with love and relationship and purpose. And on the weekends, you'll take it up to the rescue and the adoption, and they'll hopefully find what we call forever homes. And if it does, great. You get to go through whatever you need to go through, and maybe take another dog and sort of sit with that open heart and that feeling. Or they come back and you continue your bonding, and of course the bond deepens, the attachment grows, and the inevitable decision to keep that dog does happen. It's what we call a failed foster, where somebody had the intention of foster caring and eventually falls in love with the animal in a way that they don't want to give that up, and so they end up keeping it. And that's great too. It's not really a failure; it's more of a joke. We say that we're trying to find homes for these dogs, and but there is a real need for people to keep their space open. So I've done that. I've just made it a commitment to not keep a dog and always, sort of, if I foster, find a home as quickly as possible so that I'm available for the next dog that needs a couch to crash on, or So, the current rescue that I'm helping is Ozzy and Friends, and they're right here in Inglewood and in Long Beach. And if you go to ozzyandfriends.org, there's contact information where if you're looking for a dog or you'd like to foster, you can contact me. If you are considering treatment for depression or addiction and you really want to try something different, pick up the phone and call me. I can, at the very least, reflect to you what might be a good choice. Not everybody, follows the same path.
Yes.
Some people need to be in therapy.
Do you have a experience that you could share real quick of someone that recently needed a dog and had a dog, and what the results were of how that helped him?
Yeah, Sam is a good one. She was on our show, I believe, was it last week?
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Samantha had come through the program and done the medicine and had a period of sobriety, and ended up being in a relationship with someone who couldn't stay sober, and it affected her ability to stay sober, and it was challenging, to say the least. And when that relationship ran its course and she was really feeling in danger of falling back into old behavior, she picked up the phone and she called me, and she was like, I don't know what to do. And I said, well, I'll tell you what you do is, I've actually got a dog that's been
there you go
going to be euthanized at the Rosarito Pound. And I said, can you please, I talked to the doctor, the veteran, Dr. Jaime Urel, and I said, can you please, I'll pay, take it and get it spayed and neutered and get it vaccinated, and I'll come pick it up and we'll find a home for it.
Mm-hmm.
Just so happened she was in need of some purpose, and I said, this dog is in the hospital, in the veterinary's office right now, and needs to be picked up. Can you go get it? And she just jumped at it. She was, she's got a dog, and she's, her and her boyfriend were like, well, no, we'll do it. And so there was another volunteer in Rosarito who agreed to pick the dog up and bring it to the border. And Samantha and, I want to say Nick, I think his name is, went to the border, and it was tough. They couldn't meet each other. Her phone didn't work when she was over the border. It was like 4 hours she was over the border. She came back and called me, and I said, look, you guys missed each other. Here's where they are. The dog needs to pick up. She turned around and walked back over the border into Tijuana and hooked up and got this puppy and brought it back. And, she fell in love with this dog and spent the next couple of weeks getting it, the rest of its shots and loving on it, and ended up finding it a beautiful home on a 2-acre property with another dog. And really just the whole experience revitalized her, and she got what she needed out of that experience.
Cool.
And right now is, working with me, helping me design logos for the recovery dogs. And so her commitment to continuing finding purpose in this process specifically is what's keeping her sober right now. And I'm an advocate of therapy of any kind, whether it's cognitive behavioral therapy, yoga, AA, getting staying in relationship in some way where you're accountable and people, you're not a secret, they know what's going on with you.
Mm-hmm.
That really is that's the key, the relationship. How are you staying in relationship? Did you want to add to that?
Well, what's funny is some people feel that a relationship is 50-50, and it's not. It's 100-100. And the joke is, I say that if you give your relationship 50-50 and you're married, you're going to end up losing 50% of your stuff when you get divorced. So, the relationship really is a lot. And sometimes, having a dog, it's kind of like you're taking care of the dog, but you learn how to take care of each other, and it's a good prelude for having a child. because you got to take care of the dog and feed it and take out for a walk and do all that kind of stuff for it.
Yeah, I know in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was told that in your early sobriety, the first year sobriety, no relationships of a sexual nature, no intimate relationships. And then another one was like, get a plant. And if you can keep the plant alive for 1 year, then you're ready to have an intimate relationship.
Does a weed in the front yard count?
Maybe. I mean, here's the idea. What I do know is that relapse, the primary causes of relapse are loss of a job or loss of a relationship. So we go in, we get into a relationship, and we lose and we use. So our solution in our database, in our frontal lobe, where we keep all of our responses to emotions, I need to use in order to feel better. And when our amygdala is triggered, and we call it amygdala hijacking,
yes,
it sends a signal I have to use in order to survive this. It's basically a survival mechanism. Ibogaine is one of the few things that can interrupt that. It's an addiction interrupter, not a cure, but it's a window of opportunity where we interrupt that. And so now if you get triggered by something and you pick up another solution, which is, anything from as simple as breathing, pick up the phone and call your support group, take a walk, right? Play with your dog. Any of these things can be solutions other than substances. And so we need to do it enough times in a row before we don't have to fall back into an old pattern.
Right. And that's the issue, is the habits and the old patterns. And maybe if, you have this issue to use, and instead of doing that, grab the leash and go out and take a 30-minute walk. Chances are when you come back, you'll feel better and you won't want to use as much.
Something to be said about breathing, Walt. I can't I can't overstate just conscious breath. When we feel something in our body move, an emotional or a thought comes, if we could train ourselves to non-reaction, to not move, and to take a deep conscious breath and look inward and say, what is this? Where am I feeling this in my body? What's this emotion that I'm feeling? And then what's the brain telling me? Okay, what's the thought? What is that? Okay, and then, none of that has to be real. That's all part of the story. And I'm okay, and I take a deep breath, and I choose my response to an emotional reaction. So I feel it in my body. I recognize it. I might even isolate it, but I just focus on conscious breaths, and then I choose the next step. And many people use things like prayer beads, mantras. These are things that can interrupt, mental patterns, of negative thinking, and that drive our behaviors. Which
you say conscious beads?
No, prayer beads.
Prayer beads, okay.
Prayer beads and mantras.
Okay.
I was in my morning meeting this morning, and a woman across from me, she had her eyes closed, and she was sitting there, and I could see on her face that there was something going on. Did not look like a pleasant experience. But what she was doing is she was just rolling the beads, moving them in her hand, and that was her way of processing. I really love that about coming together in a group and doing a meditation. I work with Tibetan singing bowl. This is right here. I brought this up before. I use this prior to meditation, and we do it in groups.
I myself think it's a really cool sound.
This one specifically,
that's really cool.
And then 3 ohms, because the ohming, it gets into our diaphragm. We harmonize with the people in the circle, and then we sit quietly now, having met a vibratory equilibrium, sort of, and we sit quietly and we meditate and we watch, the mind do its thing. And I found people who had come through the program when I was doing that would years later say that was really powerful. Initially, they kind of thought it was cheesy. Why the oming? Why? But it's powerful.
Well, we're vibrational, for goodness sakes. If we want to admit it or not, we are. So the more vibration that gets you into the the mode. I mean, with the Qigong bell and everything else. I mean, there you go.
I'm gonna plug aftergain.com, and again,
Aftergain.com.
these websites aren't done yet, but the pieces are all there, and to kind of explain what that is and how it's going to work is it's going to have social media functions where everybody can be part of a group. You can join a group that's existing or start your own group. There will be groups just about every day, and there's going to be a morning check-in and an evening check-in where we'll be doing meditations. And so it's just an online community of people that will be having conversations about all of these things that we're talking about on this radio show, about recovery, global recovery, how life is impacting them, and to be in a part of a collective group where they're not alone and they can share their experience. I believe that prayer is not something that you do in the morning and then you put it, because many of us do this. We pray for that thing that we need. We pray for the people that are screwing us over or that we're screwing over, and we go out there and we seize the day. And what I'm trying to evoke in myself and practice is a calmer, more prayerful, intentful living. And it helps to have a place, this online community where you can go in and check in and have regular meditations and meetings. I was introduced to this through a group called Sky, Simplified Kundalini Yoga.
Wow.
So if you Google that, they have great meditations that bring people into harmony, bring you into alignment. There's a process, an educational process. The Yogi Nanda, I don't know the guy's name, but you'll see it when you go there. And when I was in Colorado, I had left my years of running call centers and selling algorithmic trading systems for the commodities market in precious metals to having a garden and 21 chickens and doing yoga and smoking a lot of weed, to be honest, and being introduced into ayahuasca. That's where I was initially introduced, and it really changed my life. But I learned from a practitioner there these meditations and started this practice. There's also a book out now. It's called Heart Circles. So I've
heard of that.
Invite anybody out there to buy that book, Heart Circles, and maybe even start one in your own area where your community can come together physically and meet once a week or however often, do a meditation and share your opinions on specific things and get perspective. That has the added benefit of being in and around a community of people that support each other. And when we get to know each other and really understand how people see the world, we have a lot more compassion and empathy. We feel connected. This is the whole thing. This show is about relationship, and it was brought up to me because I see when I watch these protesters that have these relationships, right? They've got relationships with the group.
Yes, they do.
They're a group of people that have been wounded and are unresolved, and whether it be, many of these people are ex-military, and so they've been exposed to violence. They've been asked to perpetrate acts that go against human nature. There's a warrior class, yes, but we're human beings. Killing other human beings is not natural for anybody. I'm sorry. Protecting our own and doing that's part of culture, but I believe that can 7 generations, I think, is the number that you hear in many biblical texts and other.
You're talking about multi-generational?
I'm talking about, yes, multi-generational trauma.
Yes.
There was a study done with mice where they would shock in some way that would affect the mouse while it was smelling rose. And they were doing an EEG and looking at the pattern of when I say rose, or you smell rose, it stimulates a pattern in the brain, and it's passed on genetically.
Okay.
And so like Pavlovian, if you spray the rose smell for the mouse of the 2nd or 3rd generation, you're going to see the same pattern that was created through the shock, through the trauma. So they're measuring how many generations trauma is passed down through the neurological pathways. And they came up with 7 generations that before it no longer was present in the brain of the mice that had been traumatized.
Well, then, of course, you talk about trauma. If any one of those ones in those 7 generations either smelled the rose or had trauma, then that's just going to perpetuate for 7 more generations from that.
Yep, that's what we do.
And that's right. And so, therefore, it's not like it's just 7. I mean, if it happens a generation or 2 away, right, it's grandpa and mom, or and then it's going multi-generational.
However, caveat, my brother, the good news is that when we heal this in ourselves,
yes,
interrupt that.
Yes,
we interrupt that. And I believe I've seen some amazing healings happen with medicines that are multi-generational, almost like time traveling. There's a process called family constellations therapy. It was developed by a Catholic priest, but it actually deals with our mother, father, grandparent relations, and we establish in the room when we're collectively as a group working through our issues, we do role playing, and we have, here's my mother, here's my father, here's my grandmother, my grandfather, here's my brother and sister. Where are they in this constellation? And then we're like, okay, let's talk through what's going on and how this affects all of our relations. In the same respect, Native American sweat lodges are about bringing in all of our relations, the stone people, the plant people, our mother, father, abuelas, grandparents, all of these. When you're in a traditional sweat lodge ceremony, the rocks represent our relatives, and they're brought in, and the heat and the vibration from the drums is all about getting connected and releasing, these many generations of trauma.
And if it's nipped at the bud, it does not continue. You're quite correct. I'm just saying if it does perpetuate, then it's going to perpetuate for a long time. But if you stop it and find ways to do that, however you decide, it is stopped and it doesn't continue. So, yeah.
And when we wake up and we start to realize that the mind is not our best friend, not to mention it's not who I am. So many of us run around thinking that our thoughts are who we are. And there's a pretty simple exercise that I can invite people to do. And it's like this, take a second and, straighten your back and take a deep breath and close your eyes. And I want you to think of just a white sheet of paper and allow everything else to move from your mind, and take a deep breath and focus on that white sheet of paper in your mind's eye and nothing but that white sheet of paper. And keep your eyes closed and think of that white sheet of paper until another thought pops up. And most people open their eyes pretty quickly. They hear something in the background. Something happens. Some people sit there with their eyes closed for a minute. I'm like, you're not getting it, because I know, something's. I can't do it for more than a couple seconds myself, and I've been practicing meditation. And so, the idea is, who's the you that was just trying to think of the white sheet of paper, and who's the you that thought of this other thing? So, if you allow that experience to show you that your mind is separate from your awareness, and that's the beginning of focusing on the awareness, not the thoughts. And through the practice of meditation, you start to be able to separate from the thoughts and to get control. Because the truth is, our emotional pain body, based on all of these generations of trauma, are affecting the mind state and drive us back to past experiences and tell us this is what's happening to us. And here's the solution to it. And what it's done is it's created the life that we're living. It's created.
Absolutely. And we talk about that on another show called we look through life through our cracked lens of perception. And we need to rewrite that prescription.
And the solution is deep breaths, and love, really get that feeling of love. Go to the puppies, go where the children are, go where the plants are. get that love feeling, whatever you need to do to cultivate it, and then put it in, you have it with you. And when you feel triggered, when you feel upset, pause, deep conscious breath, an awareness that you are not that, you are not those thoughts. We don't stuff it. We allow it to come up. We feel it and we breathe. And then we bring our mind to that space of love. We go back to that knowing that, love is all around us. It's in the ether. It's one of the 5 elements. You just pull it in, and it's always there. It's always there. Some are better than others at, deviating from the mental obsession and the pain body and allowing love to take root in their lives. But until then, go where the love is. Find the communities where, love is a practice, where they actually work towards higher vibration, love vibration. And pick up a shovel and be of service, and humble yourself.
There's a lot to say about giving and volunteering. You get a lot more than you think about. You think you would in doing that, even if it's just a half an hour a month or a couple of hours a month. The benefits are ginormous. They really are.
Yeah,
they're huge. They really are.
Tithing and giving money is not the same thing. It's great. No. Please, we need it. I'm starting a nonprofit. Global Recovery Today is actually going to be a hub for nonprofits. And what we're going to try to do is allow people who need recovery the ability to raise money for the nonprofits, and a portion of that will go towards their treatment. And so, and that's going to be focusing on driving revenue to fund these projects. But nothing is more important than actually getting out and actively giving your time and working with your hands and getting dirty. Get your hands dirty in the dirt. It's amazing. I want to just tell anybody out there this school that I'm going to in Tecate is amazing. The people working with Adobe, they're building their structures out of clay because what Luis has stated, and many people in this biogenics way of living is that we're all like a cell in our environment. If it's toxic, we're exchanging energy and electrons with that environment. If it's off-gassing, and if it's building materials and paints and pressure treated lumbers and all of these things that have these gases and chemicals on it, we're interacting with that, and it's building up in our system. And it's just a matter of time and age and negative energy and chemical exposure and diet and depression for cancer and disease.
Yes.
Right. So they start with just working with your hands and building clay structures and being in a loving environment. And then of course, very strict vegetarian diet. They don't eat meat. I haven't adopted that completely today. My refrigerator is pretty much meat free. I bought all organic, vegetables, and so. But I already feel the craving just now talking about it. So I'm not free of it.
Yeah, no. There's a lot to say for not eating meat. I'm eating less than I used to, but.
We have to look at the impact of our choices.
Yes.
Global recovery. I really, when I started working with the plant medicines and helping people, get sober, I felt like it was an amazing opportunity post ibogaine or post ayahuasca to really have people question, why do you do what you do? If you're going to go back out in the world and continue a lifestyle that is unconscious and you're not questioning your impact, what you eat and what you buy and how you live your life and the impact that has on the well-being of everybody, then I really don't think I did my job, and so I started with the meditation, started with the inquiry process. We do, the medicine, and then we talk about things like, what's the impact of eating meat on the planet? What do we know about the bovine industry?
Mm-hmm.
Methane is one of the strongest greenhouse gases, and whether you believe in global warming or not, what I do know is that in order to feed all of those cows, we're cutting down the rainforest at an astronomical rate. And I was in Panama, and they were clearing lands for cows because that's economy. So our addiction to meat drives the these poor economies to deforest so that they can have grazing land for their cows. And ultimately, whether you believe in global warming or not, ecology and resources are going to be affected by our choices, by our consumption. So wake up, people.
Yeah. I mean, we're in a global economy. And we are about out of time. We got about another minute or two, Tyson. Is there anything you wanted to close out with? It's been a fast hour.
That last part about personal responsibility. I was out on the beach playing volleyball, and some great people. Educated, attractive, professionals that are, they are the. This morning, I listened to Revolt, the Breakfast Club, and there's some rappers and some guys talking about how white people need to man up and take responsibility for the world that they created, and the people that they've hurt and the choices they made. And we really do. We really here in the United States, and specifically, the affluent white males are fully and wholly detached from the rest of the world suffering. And so there is a mea culpa that needs to happen. I don't know if I'm using the word right. I've always struggled with that one, but the reckoning, and start now. And humbly, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
Mm-hmm. I'm hearing that a lot lately.
Change our behavior. Make choices that are less selfish and self-serving. That would be my request, and that's I'm doing it myself. I'm not asking you to do something that I'm not doing myself. And if you have any question about it, come on down, spend some time with us. I invite you to Mexico, or even to Torrance here, where we go on the weekends and work with the dogs. So, please, if you're feeling disconnected, if you want to be part of a movement of redemption,
and then how do they get a hold of you?
My phone number, 310-467-6783. And the 3 websites will be as they come online. You'll notice now if you go there. Well, the Recovery Dogs has some stuff there. TheRecoveryDogs.com, Global Recovery Today, and Aftergain, each with their own purpose. And if you want to know what that is, reach out and give me a call. You could also try me at Tyson at Global Recovery Today.
There it is. So your phone number one more time.
310-467-6783.
There you go. So this, folks, has been in Global Recovery Today. We really appreciate you tuning in and watching us on YouTube and liking, subscribing, sharing, and commenting. You can also find us on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Spreaker. And this has been your host, Walt Lusk, with, of course, Tyson Elliott. Until next time, God bless everyone, and really think about investing in a dog. God bless.
Blessings.